Captain Kangaroo.
Hey, all right, first up, that's offensive. I'll tell you another thing. If any of us truly deserves hell, it's Waller. And that bitch knows it. Thank God the way she does.
I ain't worried. I know I'm going to heaven. Anyone who can put up with Mr. J deserves a break.
See, the problem is, sweetheart, you have to die in order to find out if the card really works. It'd be pretty bloody embarrassing if it didn't. What about you, gunman? You think the card could wipe away all the blood you've spilled? Or don't you believe in heaven?
I believe in heaven, Boomer. Every time you shut your mouth.
You joke about heaven and hell, Deadshot, but trust me, they exist. There's not a morning goes by I don't get up wondering if this will be my judgment day. Will I end up with the woman I love? Will face a lake of hellfire with the same vermin who brought me down? The only thing any of us can hope for is divine intervention. Only through the grace of God can we be saved from eternal damnation for all the blood we spilled. Everything else is just talk.
So, guess the card couldn't hurt then, eh?
Welcome to Superhero Cinephiles. I am half of your host, Perry Constantine.
And as always, I am the other half, Derek Ferguson.
How you doing today, Derek?
Oh, pretty good. I can't complain. I got to watch 2 good movies today, one of which we will be talking about very shortly.
Mm-hmm. And what was the other one?
I watched a movie. It's a historical drama called Cromwell. It was made in the 1960s with Richard Harris. And it was a nice historical drama. Anybody out there, if you've got Amazon Prime, you can watch it, via Amazon Prime, no extra charge. And I just watched it because I'm a Richard Harris fan. Mm-hmm. And he goes through this movie, and he's like the personification of that saying, anger gets shit done. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he stays angry. I've never seen an actor that started out angry and just got more and more angry as the movie went on. And that's what he does in this one. So, yeah, but it's about, it's a historical drama. It takes place in England, and Alec Guinness, he plays the king, and they're trying to overthrow the king because he's disbanded Parliament, and now he needs Parliament to get back together because he wants money to go to war against Scotland, and, it was really entertaining. I enjoyed it. So that's another free movie recommendation for you guys out there. Cromwell, starring Richard Harris.
Okay, cool. I had been rewatching Parks and Recreation lately because I think it was Barry Reese mentioned that he started watching it, and I'm like, you know what, I haven't seen that in a while, so I started rewatching it from the second season because the first season is crap. But man, that show is so good.
Well, it's not that it's crap. And this is what I told Barry. I said, listen, hang in there until the second season. Because it's not until the second season they figured out what show they were doing.
Yeah, the first season they were still very much in Office territory.
Well, it's the Amy Poehler show, really. Mm-hmm. It's really not like an ensemble that it eventually turned into. It turned into an ensemble thing. The first season, it's really, and that first season, it was much more like, the Office Light.
Exactly, yeah. And Amy Poehler's Leslie Knope in that first season, she feels like a different character than she became in the second season going forward.
Exactly. Like I said, by the time they get to the second season, they said, okay, now we know what show we're doing.
Yeah. And so rewatching that has been a lot of fun. Like I was surprised like how much I'm really getting into it. And I've also been putting I started The Simpsons from the first season on Disney Plus, and I put it on in the background when I'm like reading comics or something, just to like have some background noise. And you know what's interesting in that is because all this time, like for most of the Simpsons run, I had seen it through reruns on Fox, like because they showed it like 5 times a day on Fox.
Oh yeah.
And so it's interesting to go back and say like, whoa, wait, that episode was in the first season?
Yeah.
So that's been fun to do too.
I haven't started watching it yet because what I'm doing now, I'm right in the middle of the Clone Wars, Star Wars, the Clone Wars. Because I had seen like the first 2 seasons, but for some reason I didn't continue watching it. I don't know why, because I'm a Star Wars fan. So I've been watching that. And that's what I want to do next. I want to watch, The Simpsons right from the start, because once I saw that Disney Plus had all of the seasons of The Simpsons, I said, oh yeah, well, I can't pass up this opportunity to start from. I think that the only episode that they don't have is the one with Michael Jackson. I read something.
Yeah, that's the only one that they don't have on there. Comixology had a big sale on Daredevil stuff, so I spent way too much money on that stuff the other day.
Oh man, please. Well, I didn't have to spend any money on that last week, but they had like Batman Black and White.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they had like all the individual issues, but they had them for free.
Yeah, I picked up all those.
Oh my God, I can't. You know what? I can't get nothing else on my Kindle. I have to like go get one of those. I have to get like an SD card. For storage, so I can put the stuff on there, or else just like sit down and read some of this shit.
Yeah.
Instead of just clicking and downloading it. Because I was looking at my Kindle the other day, I was looking for another book to read, and I'm not going to lie to you, Perry. I would say there's about a good 50 books that's on there. I don't even remember downloading those things.
Oh,
and I'm looking.
Don't even get me started. Don't even get me started on that.
I said, why did I download this?
You know what? I took an inventory of my iTunes library because for some reason there's some like weird syncing issue where the unwatched movies on Apple TV from my iTunes library, they don't display right, so they don't always register right. So I went through the library and I'm like, okay, and I made a list on Letterboxd of all the movies that I haven't watched yet that I own. There's like damn near 200 movies in there.
Oh my God. Sometimes I have to do like my Netflix queue. There's like, I did that like about 6-8 months ago. I went through it and I said, why is it still on here? I've never watched it. I'm never going to watch it. I don't even know why it's here.
Yeah.
And no lie, there was about like 100 movies that I just, cut off on my queue. Because I said, this is ridiculous. And especially if I haven't watched it by now, well, apparently I'm never going to watch it.
Right. Yeah.
Which has been my thing now, that if I download something or if I record something on my DVR, if I haven't watched it by the end of the month, I just delete it.
Okay.
The hell with it. Yeah. If I really need to watch it, I can always go back and find it someplace.
Yeah. There are free books on my Kindle that I downloaded, like no joke, 10 years ago probably.
Yeah. Same thing with me. I've got free books that I downloaded like 6 years ago, and I have no idea why.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. It'd be different if I knew the writer. I said, oh, okay, well, I downloaded this because I know so-and-so. I don't even recognize the name.
Something else we should mention before we get into today's movie, which is something we talked about briefly before we got on the air. And it was like the first thing I woke up to this morning. Like I woke up about like an hour ago, and as soon as I wake up, I see I got a message on Facebook, and I'm like, oh man, I hope Derek's not gonna have to cancel again. And but the message is from a buddy of mine, and it's a link saying that that they're finally releasing the Snyder Cut of Justice League.
That's all I saw all day long on Facebook. Seriously, that was the only thing I've seen.
So I guess all the whining and bitching and moaning by Snyder fanboys over the past, 3 years now has finally paid off.
But here's the thing, and as I was telling somebody earlier on, because of course everybody jumped on me and said, oh, you said that they was never going to release it. I said, no, that's not what I said. I said, if they had it, they would release it if they thought they were going to make money off of it. Mm-hmm. I said, which has always been my thing. I always said, if there is a Snyder Cut, and I said, no, I don't think there is one. But if there is one, they're not going to release it unless they're going to be able to make a lot of money off of it.
Right.
And now with the coronavirus, there has been so many productions of movies and TV shows that have suspended. This is an excellent way for HBO Max to get attention, to that streaming service. Because, of course, everybody's, they're all streamed out. Mm-hmm. But this is an excellent way to draw attention to HBO Max, whereas otherwise most people would have said, yeah, okay, well, just another streaming service. So what? You know.
Yeah, and the article I read about it too is Deborah Snyder, his wife and his co-producer on the movies. She had said that one of their pitches to Warner Brothers was, well, look, all these VFX studios and everything right now they don't have any work, so this will give them something to work on. So I think it is kind of like this perfect storm. If this hadn't happened, I don't know if we would actually be getting a Snyder Cut.
Well, see, that's my thing. I was talking to somebody earlier on, and that was my take. I say, no, something. If it hadn't been for the coronavirus, we probably never would have seen it anyway. But they figured, you know what? People are home now anyway.
Yeah.
People are, they're thirsting for stuff to watch. So, hey, why not?
And the people who have to finish the effects, because I think what a lot of people don't understand is it wasn't a finished movie. It was a movie that was made before all the effects were added. And Snyder's movies are heavy on visual effects, so there's a lot of work that's still got to be done on that thing.
See, that was my thing. People acted like this was a whole complete movie he had finished. No, it wasn't. No.
That's not how it works. They don't give you all that money to start the VFX work before they've seen a cut of it.
Yeah. And like you said, Snyder, his movies are very, the visuals are very heavy on that. So, but hey, listen, anything that puts people back to work, I got nothing, I got, nothing against that, of course. And for you good people out there, of course, if you would like for Perry and I to take a look at the Snyder Cut of Justice League and review it, all you got to do is just let us know.
And, because I made no secret on this show how much I hated Zack Snyder's DC movies, with, Watchmen being like half an exception to it. But even still, like, I've got a morbid curiosity in seeing the Snyder Cut. Just because I'm wondering, after seeing Batman v Superman, I wonder how terrible Justice League his Justice League was going to be.
Right. Well, I think I like Justice League more than you did. I didn't
like the version we got. I didn't mind. I think there's half of a good movie in there, and that half that is a good movie, I think, is the Joss Whedon stuff.
Yeah, I wasn't crazy about it, and as I've said before, I didn't like what's that guy's name, Ezra Miller. I didn't like.
Same here.
I didn't like his Flash, but except for that, I wasn't crazy about it, but I didn't hate it either.
No, I didn't hate it. Like, it was much better than I think we would have gotten with the Snyder Cut, but it was at the same time, it was also very underwhelming.
Well, see, that's what I think too. I think that like you said, I think the best parts of it was the parts that Joss Whedon did.
Yeah. Like, Henry Cavill, he actually got a chance to play Superman for the first time in 3 movies in that movie.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was fine with it just for that. And, they brought back, like, the Danny Elfman Batman theme. They brought back the John Williams Superman theme. Ben Affleck had grown more into the Batman role. Like, he felt more comfortable in it. He was a lot less Frank Miller Batman and a lot more like Denny O'Neil, Grant Morrison Batman, which I liked a lot more.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Listen, I bought the Blu-ray when it came out, and occasionally when I feel like a superhero movie marathon, Justice League is one of the movies that I throw on. It's perfectly acceptable in a lot of ways. Is it flawed? Yes, it's flawed. But as we shall see when we finally see this much ballyhooed Snyder Cut, we'll we'll all see how much more different it could have been. I don't think it's going to be like, say, for instance, like, what's the best example I could think of? Like the Richard Donner.
Mm-hmm. Richard Donner, Superman 2, yeah.
Right, Superman 2, yeah. Because, there was a whole bunch of stuff that he had filmed.
Yeah.
That was just never used, that they just threw away.
And even still, even with all that stuff that was changed, like, there were still problems with that cut. Like, when they reused the ending from Superman 1.
Right, exactly. There were still problems with it. So, like I said, it's not like, I think that people have got their hopes up, like they're thinking that they're going to see a whole brand new movie, but hey, okay, listen, now that it's on the schedule, we will all see.
Yeah. All right. Now, with that in mind, today we're talking about an actual good DC movie, and that was your pick from last week, and that's Suicide Squad: Hell to Pay.
Yep. This one was made in 2018.
Yeah.
And this was an animated movie that was made a couple of years after the live action Suicide Squad.
And is far superior to the live action one.
Well, you know what? Anybody that I have a conversation with, when they tell me how much they hate the Suicide Squad and blah, 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 and I said, okay, well, have you ever seen Suicide Squad: Hell to Pay? And they said no, and they didn't even know about it, which really surprises me. So apparently DC didn't do a lot of advertising on this movie, hoping that people would just be drawn to the live action one, I guess, and wouldn't see this one, because I tell everybody, okay, if you want to see, because and our old regular now, Sam Liu, who has directed a ton of other DC animated movies, it's like if he was given the mandate and said, okay, imagine if Quentin Tarantino or Robert Rodriguez, if they had directed a Suicide Squad movie. Because that's what this is how this feels to me. I mean, once they started with the credits, which were very grindhouse.
Yeah, and I was going to say, that's the kind of attitude you got to take with the Suicide Squad movie. Because you got a bunch of bad guys who are being forced to work for the government under a bad woman, and they're going out there doing bad things that are going to get them killed. So yeah, it does have that very grindhouse feel. I mean, the whole thing about the Suicide Squad concept was inspired by the Dirty Dozen.
Exactly. Yeah, that's, and I know I get this from people all the time. Well, I need a movie where I can root for somebody. I need somebody to like and everything. Well, that's not the Suicide Squad. This is a movie about a bunch of characters that don't like each other. Don't give a damn about anybody. They are flat out no good, bad people who do not have a single redeeming quality.
I wouldn't go that far, because here's the thing about the Suicide Squad is they're not good guys. You're right about that. But they're bad guys you love to watch.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Who doesn't like? It's kind of like, okay, I put this in the same class where the movies, like you said, okay, The Dirty Dozen, or The Wild Bunch.
Yeah.
Or, movies of that time. I mean, these are not people that you necessarily like or you want to hang out with, everything like that. But it's fascinating to watch them do what they do.
Yeah.
And because they are these types of characters, that's what brings a level of unpredictability to the story, because these people are constantly double-crossing each other. They're stabbing each other in the back. You don't know who's going to switch sides at the drop of a hat. You don't know who's going to stay loyal to this character. So to me, that brings a level of unpredictability that you don't get in, say, like a Justice League movie or an Avengers movie, where you know what the character is. Okay, well, you know how this is going to play out with Iron Man or with Captain America or with Superman or with Batman, unless we're dealing with an alternate world version of these characters. But if we're dealing with the traditional version, you know how it's going to play out. You don't get that with Harley Quinn or, Amanda Waller or, Captain Boomerang. You don't know how these characters are going to act in a given. You can't point and say, okay, well, I know that they're going to do that.
Yeah. And one thing I also liked about this movie, too, is this is actually the first Suicide Squad movie that did not feature any superheroes at all. Like, you got the guy who used to be Dr. Fate, but that's it. But other than that, like, it's not like the first Suicide Squad animated movie, which was not even titled Suicide Squad. It was called Batman: Assault on Arkham, which was using Batman to tell a Suicide Squad story, basically. And then there was in the Suicide Squad movie where you had Batman in a bunch of scenes, you had the Flash appear as well. But there's none of that in this movie, and that it shows that they had more confidence in the characters of the Suicide Squad to just carry this movie on their own.
Yeah, exactly. That was the whole thing. And that's another reason why I recommend this movie over, because I know I was talking to somebody about it. Said, oh, you should have did, the Assault on Arkham. I said, no, because that's basically a Batman movie.
Right.
Whereas this is from beginning to end. This is the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, and it's a much better Suicide Squad movie than Assault on Arkham.
Yeah. Well, I've never seen Assault on Arkham, so I'm going to take your word for it.
It's not bad, but it's not great. Like it's nothing to write home about, basically.
Oh, okay. Because excuse me, because yeah, because now I'm starting to get on the real DC animated movie kick now. You know, because I've seen Flashpoint Paradox, but there's one that just came out recently, and I want to watch that.
Justice League Dark Apocalypse.
Yeah, Justice League Dark Apocalypse. Even though I'm not too crazy about the whole Justice League Dark concept, I say, you know what? Let me give this a chance.
Well, you know, this is like, because beginning with Flashpoint Paradox, they kind of started a DC animated universe that was based on the New 52 stuff. So you had Flashpoint Paradox, then you had Justice League War, Justice League Throne of Atlantis. You had the Batman and Damian Wayne Robin movies like Son of Batman, Batman versus Robin, Batman Bad Blood, and then you had The Death of Superman, The Return of Superman, and then this because this one is kind of like a slight sequel to Flashpoint Paradox, because we find out what happens to Reverse Flash in this.
Right, actually, yeah, and we find out, you know, why, because the Reverse Flash, right at the start of the movie, well, first of all, we should tell the people what the plot of the movie is. Mm-hmm. Okay. You got the Suicide Squad, which is, for those of you that don't know, it's a program that was started by one of my favorite characters of all time, Amanda Waller, who goes to the government with a proposal for what she calls Task Force X, which means that any supervillains that they capture from now on, they will put them on a team to carry out covert missions that, of course, that nobody else will take. You know, in essence, they are suicide missions. But here is the deal that she offers them. You go on the mission, you survive the mission, eventually you go free.
Yeah, you get time shaved off your sentence.
Right, you'll get eventually time. And if you survive enough missions, eventually the notion is that you go free. Of course, Amanda Waller doesn't plan that, which is why she escalates the mission to kill. And if they don't go on the mission, she has had each and every member of the squad injected with a nanobomb in their neck that will, in essence, blow their heads off if they get out of line or refuse to take the mission. And in fact, in this movie, we see a very graphic example of what happens to somebody who screws up on a mission.
Oh, that's one of the things. Like, this is one of the few R-rated DC animated movies, and they take advantage of that rating.
And let me, you know, because I'm always mindful, and I know because a lot of people, they just see, you know, animated movies with superheroes in it, and they think, okay, well, I can put this on for my kid. No, this is an adult movie. I cannot stress that enough.
Unless you don't mind your kids seeing, you know, explosions and cursing and stuff, which, you know, I grew up with and I turned out fine. But if you're one of the parents who doesn't want your kid watching that stuff, then you don't want to show them this movie. Because
actually, before the opening credits even start, something like 40 people get killed.
Oh yeah.
Because there's like a mini mission that we see before the main mission that has Deadshot, Count Vertigo, and Punching Julie.
Yeah, and also Black Manta too.
And Black Manta, yeah, because he transports them to get on this train, and they basically lay waste to everybody that's in the train. So there is an extraordinary body count even before the opening credits start.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned that segment. I really like that segment because it feels, it's like the cold opens for the James Bond movies.
Yeah,
I love it when they do that. Like, and something you talked about doing with your Dylan books, where you open up with this small unrelated mission, and it's like a shorthand to tell the audience this is what these characters do all the time.
Right, exactly. Which is why I love this so much, because we get to see their powers, we get to see what they do. Mm-hmm. So you know what? We don't have to be told who these characters are, right, and what they're. We see them in action doing what they do, which, like you said, I stole that from the James Bond movies, because I always liked how we see James Bond on like these little mini missions before the main one. It like gets us, primed. We say, okay, James Bond is back, and we got the opening credits and everything. So yeah, so I really like And I like the twists and turns that it takes, this opening mission.
Yeah, where you got Julie and Count Vertigo, they're working together and they're trying to betray the team and all that.
Yeah, and we see, and again, I have to stress, folks, that this is a movie that does not pull its punches when it comes to the violence, the level of violence.
Yeah, definitely not. And I got to say also, Christian Slater does the voice of Deadshot, and he's amazing in this.
You know what? The first time I saw this movie, I didn't really pay attention to it, but I'm going to be honest. Mm-hmm. I didn't pay attention to his voice, and I'm actually going to have to go back because I wrote a review of this movie for the Ferguson Theater, and I'm going to have to reevaluate it because I really paid attention to the nuances of his voice when he was talking to the other characters.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really got into his performance. Him and the guy that does, the Bronze Tiger.
Yeah, Billy Brown.
Billy Brown, yeah. I really got into it this time. And I said, oh, okay. Because Christian Slater does a lot of interesting things with his voice where he's doing one thing, but he's saying another, and you can feel there's something else going on.
Yeah, he was really, and like you, I wasn't really paying attention to the voices the first time around, but after I'd seen it the first time, in the aftermath of that, I remember reading somewhere that there was some article I saw that's saying Christian Slater explains why he loved voicing Deadshot so much, and I'm like, oh, that was Christian Slater? And then when I rewatched it this time, I paid a lot more attention to that. Yeah,
because you know why, and also probably because the first time I watched it just casually and stuff like that, which is why. And for the folks listening to this that don't know this, a lot of these movies that we talk about, I have seen, but it's been a while since I've seen them. So before we record these episodes, I always like to watch them again. Yeah. So I can see it with a fresh eye and watch it with a more critical eye and ear so I can catch things that I missed the first time around. And the voice work by Christian Slater was something I have to admit, I really didn't pay attention to the first time, but I paid attention to it this time, and I was much more impressed.
Yeah, same here.
Now, go ahead and know what the rest of the plot. So, Amanda Waller, see how fast we digressed here, folks?
Well, at least, unlike most of our digressions, this was actually about the movie, so that's...
Yeah, exactly.
So we're doing better.
What we're talking about. So, but Amanda Waller puts together this new version of Task Force X, with Copperhead, Captain Boomerang, Harley Quinn, Deadshot, the Bronze Tiger, and Killer Frost, and sends them in search of a card. It's a card that says "Get out of hell free." Yeah,
and the idea is that if you're holding this card on you when you die, then you go straight to heaven. You don't have to worry about being damned. Now, it's actually, you picked this at the perfect time. Because unknowingly, I had not realized that they were connected. But I had, because they, like I mentioned earlier, there was a big Daredevil sale. There was also a big DC sale at Comixology. And some of the stuff I bought was, years ago, I had read the first volume of Gail Simone's Secret Six series. And I really liked it. And I'd always been meaning to get the other books at some point. Well, they were on sale now, so I bought them. And in the second volume, it's all about this story. It's all about the Get Out of Hell free card. And I read it just last week.
Oh, really? Yeah. So, okay. So they got it from something else. I thought it was just something they had just cooked up just, for this movie.
No. It came from Gail Simone's Secret Six. So it wasn't necessarily a Suicide Squad, but there are a lot of the same characters. Like Deadshot was a big factor in that story. He was part of the Secret Six team. Scandal Savage was part of the Secret Six team. So was... Knockout was actually dead in the comics by that point, but she was a member, and the whole thing was Scandal was getting the card because she wanted to bring Knockout back to life.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because they're in this movie too, because we should mention that Vandal Savage shows up, and he's looking for the card too. So now you've got all of these different, and then you got the Reverse Flash. He's looking for the card for a reason which we find out later on. And he's got his own team. He's got Silver, Banshee, and Blockbuster. So you've got these three factions that are all, well, there's no other way to put it, killing each other off to get this card.
Yeah. You know what? Maybe it's just me, but I want to mention this about Vandal Savage because it kind of struck me when I was watching this movie. Is he's been in a lot of good movie and TV shows, right? He was in Justice League when him and Superman were like the only people left on Earth. He was also in Justice League where he like took over the planet by going back in time. He was in the Legends of Tomorrow TV show. He was like the main villain of the first season. And then he was in Justice League Doom, which both of us agreed that's like one of our favorite of the animated movies. But
absolutely.
I can't think of like any comics where like he really stood out to me. And maybe I just haven't read enough DC stuff. But he's always seemed to have more of a presence in the movies than in the comics to me.
No, you're not wrong, because I would actually have to be hard pressed to actually remember like a really memorable storyline that Vandal Savage was. But I admit, though, I haven't read as many comics as some of our listeners have, so maybe they can chime in and they can help us with that. But all I know is that every time I've seen him in every other medium, I've been impressed with the way that they've handled Vandal Savage.
Yeah, same here.
He's more like one of the big bads of the DC universe in the animated and in the live action series than, in the comic books.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. So that was just a brief digression. That was something I never really realized it until I was watching this movie last night. I'm like, man, Vandal Savage is in a lot of these things. I'm like, wait. Have I even read a Vandal Savage comic book? Like, they're just so unmemorable.
Well, you know what? Vandal Savage is a great villain because it's like, okay, no matter what you do, because as you said, we've seen stories where he's still alive in the far future and, and it's like, no matter what you do, you're never going to get rid of this guy.
Right.
This cat is always going to be out there somewhere plotting and planning. And it's like, okay, well, we can get rid of him for a while. Like, there's a part in the movie where Reverse Flash, he tells them, they're trying to get the card. And they said, oh, well, we can find him. Say, you don't know this. This guy disappears for hundreds of years. He said, if I don't get him now, I'll never find him. Yeah. He said, this guy disappeared. You don't understand.
So that was something that jumped out at me. And I thought this was a cool lineup they chose for the Suicide Squad, because obviously you got the mainstays like Deadshot and Bronze Tiger and Captain Boomerang, who were mainstays back in the John Ostrander run in the 80s. And then you have Harley Quinn, who's become a mainstay in the newer volumes as well.
Yeah.
And then you also have because those are like the classic Suicide Squad characters. And then you have some other characters that are thrown in there to kind of like vary it up a little bit, like the kind of rotating characters. So in this one, it's basically Killer Frost and Copperhead.
Yeah. Who I was mildly surprised that they showed up, because like you said, I thought they would go with some of the like higher profile types of characters who have been members of the Suicide Squad in the past. But as you quite rightly point out, as long as you go with Deadshot, Bronze Tiger, Captain Boomerang, and Harley Quinn, because let's face it, those are the ones that people are going to be most familiar with and who want to see anyway.
Right. Yeah.
Because I think like Captain Because if I remember from the Ostrander days, and Boomerang, he really handled him well during that run.
Yeah.
Captain Boomerang, he was.
Yeah, Deadshot and Captain Boomerang, they were like core members of the Ostrander run.
Right.
And I remember Amanda Waller was always calling him Boomer Butt.
Yeah, Boomer Butt. Yeah. Yeah. So so the lineup that they have in here is good. And one thing I like about this movie is that, okay, in a movie that's called Suicide Squad, you expect some people to get killed. This movie is not afraid to kill off people.
No. Like right from the start, like they kill Punch and Julie and Count Vertigo.
Yeah, and Count Vertigo, they get zapped in the first 10 minutes. I was like, whoa, okay. But see, again, that lets you know that this movie, again, it goes back to the unpredictability factor that I enjoy so much, is that this movie lets you know right from the start, nobody is safe.
And that goes back to Ostrander's run, because he did not take that name lightly, Suicide Squad. Like, nope. He killed a bunch of characters in that series.
Oh, yeah. As a matter of fact, Matter of fact, he killed a lot of characters I wouldn't have believed DC would have let him kill off.
Yeah, I mean, granted, it's DC, so most of them ended up coming back later, but yeah, he killed a bunch in that series.
Yeah, so we know right from the start that not everybody is guaranteed to survive until the end, except for Amanda Waller and Harley Quinn. I said, well, there's no way they're going to kill them off. It doesn't matter. They're too popular. They're never going to kill them off.
Now, this was speaking of Amanda Waller, I thought they made kind of a interest. I was kind of surprised by the choice they made with her, because the New 52, they made Amanda Waller thin and like supermodel, which a lot of fans objected to. Like a lot of fans were pissed off by that. And it kind of surprised me, because this movie came out, 7 years after the New 52. It came out, like 2 or 3 years after the Suicide Squad movie, where you had Viola Davis play her. So it really surprised me that they went with the thin version of Amanda Waller in this.
Yeah, if I have any complaints with this movie, I am one of those people not a fan of supermodel Amanda Waller.
No, I mean, she's called the Wall for a reason.
Yeah, you know what? I like Amanda Waller as she was originally presented. And as a matter of fact, if you folks will go to my review of Suicide Squad Hell to Pay at the Ferguson Theater, you will see there is a picture that I have on my desk of a little Amanda Waller action figure. Mm-hmm. And, and it's the full figured one, which is my favorite Amanda Waller. And I always liked her because Amanda Waller looked like the black women that I grew up with in my neighborhood. Yeah. And I really got a kick out of the image of a woman like that who I grown up seeing being in a comic book.
Yeah. And
the background that they gave her, that she was in the ghetto and, she educated herself and she put her kids through school and she rose up through government to become, that kind of took the edge off of her character, which is, let's be honest, she's very brutal and she's very ruthless.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, when I first saw The Shield, and there's the actress on that, CCH Pounder, my first thought was, oh, that's Amanda Waller. Yeah, and then she ended up voicing Amanda Waller in a lot of stuff.
Exactly. Now, if I had been casting the movie version, okay, nothing against Viola Davis, I love her to death, but that's who I would have chosen. Mm-hmm. For Amanda Waller, CCH, because that's who I visualize as being Amanda Waller. But I don't get to cast these things. But they got Vanessa Williams.
Oh, in this one, yeah.
Who does a good job. She does a good
job. It's just she's not as Waller-esque as like Viola Davis or CCH Pounder.
Yeah. And like I said, I am not a fan of supermodel Amanda Waller, who they also had on, she was in Arrow.
Supermodel.
Yeah, supermodel version of Amanda Waller.
Yeah, so. I can't remember who that actress was, but, she also did a good job to her credit. But again, it just didn't feel like Amanda Waller.
Nah.
And of course, your favorite actress played her on Smallville, Pam Grier.
Oh, yeah. Well, again, well, listen, Pam Grier can play anything. I don't care. You tell me Pam Grier is in it, I'm there. I don't care. Which again, here comes another digression. Which I have no idea how she's been on the TV series for this long, and I didn't know about it.
Oh, on Smallville?
No, there's a sitcom called Bless This Mess.
Oh, okay.
Which is kind of like, Green Acres. It's got this man and this wife from the city, this husband and wife, and they decide to go live this rural life. Okay. They go off the grid and they go to this little small town. And from what I've heard, Pam Grier, she's a series regular. She plays like the mayor / sheriff of this little town.
Oh, okay.
And I'm saying, wait a minute. How did I not know about this? I mean, I just heard about this recently.
Oh, yeah. I'm just looking it up now. Huh,
yeah, nobody tells me anything anymore. I'm pissed.
Hey, don't blame me, man. This is the first time I'm hearing about it.
Oh, no. Well, listen, you've got a legitimate excuse. You're on the other side of the world. I'm talking about these people here who know me and know how I feel about it. You think one of them would have, they'd send me an email about any other damn thing. You think they'd have sent me an email say, oh, Derek, you know what? Pam Grier's on TV. Really? Thank you very much.
Now, something else that kind of seemed weird to me was some of the design choices they made for the character costumes. So you've got like the ones who are very much like they are in the comics, like Christian Slater, Bronze Tiger, Copperhead, Captain Boomerang. And then you got Harley Quinn, who for some weird reason is wearing cutoff shorts with her costume, which seemed like a really strange choice. And then you've got Blockbuster, who looks like he's starring in a hip-hop video, and Silver Banshee, who looks like she's going to be starring in a punk rock video, which makes me wonder when they're going to drop their mixtape.
You know what? I actually thought Blockbuster was Solomon Grundy at first.
So did I. I was thinking the same thing.
That's what I thought it was. I said, that's Blockbuster? When they call him Blockbuster, I said, what? Yeah. I said, oh, shit. I thought it was, he looked like Solomon Grundy to me.
Same thing. He looked like Solomon Grundy was starring on a rap video.
Yeah. Yeah, because he's got the gold chain and he got the cutoff jacket and stuff like that. Yeah, Silver Banshee, she's got that whole 70s, punk rock vibe.
Yeah.
So they got some, they took some weird, I don't know why, unless, as we were saying earlier, it was to fit in with the whole grindhouse sensibility of this.
Maybe. I just think it's interesting how they had some characters are very comics accurate and then some characters are completely not. So it's just like, it was a weird choice, I thought.
But I love how when they go to the casino, because they're looking for the guy, what's his name? Maxim Steele, that used to be Dr. Fate. Yeah, Steele Maxim. They go to this casino looking for him, and he's a male stripper. And they go to the casino, they go look for him for information as to where the card is. So they go in there, and Killer Frost says to Harley Quinn, we're supposed to be keeping low profile. She said, look around, who's paying attention to us? Because actually, they're really not dressed all that outrageous, really.
No. And in fact, Steel Maxim, Greg Grunberg did the voice of him. He was from like Heroes and Alias and a bunch of other TV shows like in the early 2000s.
Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah. And I think that character, Steel Maxim, I think it's kind of loosely based on the Jared Stevens fate. Do you remember that period in the comics?
Yeah, I do remember. I do remember. Matter of fact, that's why I said, okay, I associate this movie that it could have been made by Quentin Tarantino, because that's the type of character it seemed to me he would have thrown in there that would have given him a kick. The guy with the power, of Dr. Fate, but he's a total idiot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he was a little fun addition.
yeah, because the guy would. I said, oh man, you know what? Nebu must have been having a bad day that day when he decided to make this guy Dr. Fate.
Well, you're an eternal sorcerer. You're going to make mistakes every now and then.
Yeah, I guess so. You can't listen. They all can't be Stephen Strange.
Yeah. They also had kind of a light, like, because they had the Two-Face cameo in here, and I like how they stayed true to the Batman animated series version of Two-Face. It was just kind of like a nice little Easter egg.
Yeah, they had him. They had that other, what is it, Professor Pig?
Professor Pig, yeah, from the Morrison Batman and Robin run.
Yeah. They got a couple of Batman characters, which to me was all right as long as they didn't have Batman himself.
Well, one of the things, too, that annoys me with a lot of Suicide Squad iterations when they do them and stuff like that is they try to make them heavy on Batman villains. And they, forget that there are other villains. Because, I think even more than, I think Marvel's got some better world-class villains, but when it comes to the smaller villains for stuff like Suicide Squad, DC has a ton of characters that really work well in that.
Yeah, and because you have your villains like Doctor Doom and all them other guys, and guys that are out to take over the world and anything like that. But when it comes down to stuff like this, you want what you might term the B or C list, supervillains.
Right.
These are the guys who just put on a costume. Sometimes you get the feeling that they did it kind of out of a lark. That is just a thing to do, to put on a costume and go. Like, the one thing always cracks me up about Marvel, for instance. Okay, folks, here comes the first legitimate digression of this episode. The one thing that always cracked me up about Marvel was that I said, wait a minute, was Tony Stark and Reed Richards the only guys in the Marvel universe that could figure out they could make money off of their inventions?
Yeah.
You had all of these other guys that created this stuff and invented all this wonderful technology that could make they could make a fortune from, and the first thing they decided to do, I'm going to put on a costume and go rob banks.
Yeah.
Like Paste Pot Pete. Dude, you created a super adhesive that's more powerful than crazy glue.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to tell me he couldn't have marketed that and made a fortune? Stilt Man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Stilt Man. I mean, just the application, just to wash windows alone.
And yet he decides he's going to be a supervillain and get his ass kicked by Daredevil every single time.
Every single time he gets his ass hit. Because all he got to do is trip the guy up.
It's funny because this is, to continue on and go deeper into our digression, because that's what we do on this show. I was because I bought all these Daredevil comics, and I was reading the Bendis run of Daredevil, which, I know a lot of people, they got poor feelings about Bendis, but I liked his Daredevil stuff. And there's this one scene when, after the newspapers have outed Matt Murdock as Daredevil, and Stiltman goes into his office, and he gives him the Stiltman armor. He's like, no, I'm sick of it. He's like, I've been waiting up every night, waiting for you to come and kick my ass. He's like, I'm done. I'm not going to be Stiltman anymore. And then Foggy walks in, and then Matt, and he asks, what's that? And Matt says, oh, that's the Stiltman armor. He's like, you want to be the new Stiltman? And Foggy's like, hell no.
Yeah. Nobody's got. Despite this, I love Stiltman. But now, to bring this back to the movie, DC has got a whole bunch of villains that are like that. But they did it because they were already criminals.
Right.
So when they got a hold of this technology, they figured out a way, well, I can use this to be a better crook.
Yeah.
It wasn't like in Marvel where it's perfectly law-abiding citizens that all of a sudden they said, well, now I can be a supervillain.
Right. Yeah.
These are guys which is why I like the villains in the DC universe slightly better, because if a guy's a killer already and he comes across a device that can make him a better killer, then he says, I'm not just going to become a law-abiding citizen. I'm going to become a better killer and make more money doing it.
Yeah.
Which is why there is so much cannon fodder for the Suicide Squad, because you got a whole ton of villains in the DC universe that are like that.
Well, especially when you go back to the Silver Age, when there were tons of throwaway villains, because that was back in the days when you had to have a new villain every issue. And there were lots of gimmicky supervillains that it was clear, but in some of those cases, they were just throwing darts at a wall and, picking random words out of a dictionary. Like you had Kite Man and Crazy Quilt and all those guys.
Yeah, exactly. Which a lot of them ended up in Suicide Squad, John Ostrander, and he killed them off.
Well, yeah, I mean, Punch and Julie, they were two of those characters. They ended up in Suicide Squad. And, he took them from these kind of goofy, gimmicky villains, and he made them these violent sociopaths.
Bingo. I mean, listen, that is the only way that you can go with some of these characters and make them a credible threat. You have to because a lot of those villains, like you said, they were goofy and silly, and how could you take them? Like Calendar Man.
Calendar? The greatest thing ever done with Calendar Man was The Long Halloween, where they played him as a Hannibal Lecter type.
Right.
That was amazing when they did that.
Exactly. You have to reinvent him. See it another way. But you got a lot. But DC has a lot of those throwaway guys that, it's perfect for a book like Suicide Squad, because you say, because these guys are getting caught all the time anyway.
Yeah.
I mean,
so it does make sense. It makes sense. And it also provides a reason why they end up back on the streets so quickly.
Yeah.
So they come in and I think that, and I may be mistaken, but I think I had read somewhere that was part of Ostrander's idea was, how does, it makes these prisons look ineffective. So how come these guys are ending up back on the street so quick? Well, it's because they did missions for Amanda Waller.
You're right. And they weren't say like, okay, like a guy like Deadshot. You
Yeah.
know, if you have your thumb on him, well, you're never going to let him go because he's
Right.
too useful. But a guy like Slipknot, you know, yeah, okay, well, you know what? You may need him for 1 or 2 missions. Okay, thank you, goodbye. If we need you again, we know where to find you.
Right.
You know.
And then you got someone like Captain Boomerang, who was kind of a joke character, too. And then they made him into someone a lot more threatening in the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, well, you know what? They gave him a darker, more psychotic edge.
Yeah, yeah. Well, a lot of those Flash rogues, like, they were kind of goofy and they didn't quite... They were, like, very, very much Silver Age goofiness. But then you get them in Suicide Squad or something like that, or you get a writer who... writes them with some respect, like Jeff Johns or Mark Waid, and they're able to bring a new dimension to those characters. And then when you see him on something like Captain Cold on the CW shows, he was one of my favorite villains.
Oh yeah, Captain Cold. Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Like I just loved what they did with him. And in this one, so we've got like we mentioned before, there is kind of the tie-in to Flashpoint Paradox, because we find out what happened to Zoom after he got shot by Thomas Wayne in the alternate reality.
Yeah, because because like I said, I'm watching this, I'm saying, wow, Reverse Flash, he's kind of, and I mean, the guy is really desperate to get the card.
Yeah.
You know, and you'd say, and to me, it was kind of like a funny type of Flash villain in there. And then there's a point where he's talking to Deadshot and he pulls off his mask to reveal he's got a big honking hole in his head.
Yeah. Yeah, and he says, you know, Batman shot me in the face. And he's like, not that Batman.
Yeah, it's another. Yeah, he's from that alternate timeline.
Which is, I love how casually he mentions that, right? Just like him being into an alternate timeline is no big deal. It's like another Tuesday for him.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he's Reverse Flash, you know. Right. I mean, after a while, once you get to all these different timelines and stuff like that, but he explains to Deadshot that he's kind of frozen in the moment between life and death.
Yeah.
And that's why he's trying to get this card because it's not going to last.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, whatever he's done to himself, to stave off death, because he's been shot through the head.
Oh, yeah. And in fact, he's got the bullet hole is just like right there. Like it's not even healed or anything like that.
No, it's right there. So he said that, well, listen, I need the card worse than anybody else. And there is even, which I also appreciated, there's a nice little spiritual discussion between Deadshot and Bronze Tiger when they're in the Winnebago, which is another touch that I love in this, because Amanda Waller, when she sends them out on this mission, she says, well, this is off the books. She said, this one is strictly off the books. She says, so I can't give you access to any of the high-tech transportation that you usually have, but you could take this. And it's the beat the shit Winnebago.
I was going to mention the same thing. Yeah, I love that.
So the movie turns into a road trip where the characters in this beat the shit Winnebago, and they're having these conversations. And Deadshot and Bronze Tiger end up having a really good conversation about spirituality. Do they believe in heaven and hell?
You know, that's what I liked about this Suicide Squad is that every member of the team gets some little spotlight, some little moment of characterization.
Yeah, okay, well, Harley Quinn, she gets her moment, but she really doesn't need any because we already know the deal with Harley.
Right.
But I thought that it was nice that in this movie, even with all these characters running around killing each other and double crossing each other, that the director and the writer had the confidence to slow down the story and put that scene in there, which they really didn't have to do. But, they're sitting down there and they're not exactly having like a heart to heart because they don't like each other. But it was nice to hear them express their views on, like some characters, they're very comfortable with the notion of them going to hell.
Yeah, yeah.
Other characters aren't. Some characters pretend like they're comfortable with the notion of going to hell. Some characters reject even the notion of heaven or hell because they don't want to think about either one.
Right. Like Killer Frost, that was something I liked about her story in that, where when she betrays Zoom to get the card, and then they're like, well, I thought you didn't care about the card. I thought you didn't believe in this. She's like, well, I don't. But, there are a lot of people who do, so I'm going to auction this baby off.
Right, exactly, yeah. She doesn't want it for herself.
Yeah.
She, which is what I like. it's a way to give each character the individuality. You know, everybody wants this card or doesn't want it for a different specific reason.
And you know, I got to give credit where it's due, because that was something, it wasn't always the same characters, but that was something that came from Gail Simone's Secret Six story. She had these characters on both sides, both the villains who were opposed to the Secret Six and also the Secret Six themselves, talking about, like, you know, what they thought of the card, what they thought about, you know, having these like theological discussions. So that credit, all due credit to Gail Simone, who I will always give all the credit in the world to, because she's an amazing writer.
Okay. And speaking of writers, I would like to mention that this movie was written by the great Alan Burnett.
Yeah, you know, he's written a ton of these.
Yeah. And I do believe this was the last DC animated movie he wrote before he retired.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I think he did.
Well, no, that was a producer credit. I'm checking a writer.
Oh, okay.
No, he actually, the last one he wrote was Justice League versus the Fatal Five.
Oh, okay. So I read it wrong then. But it's worth noting Alan Burnett wrote it because, hell, it's Alan Burnett.
Yeah.
Period. You know.
So if anyone doesn't know who he is, he's written like a lot of the DC animated universe stuff back from the back in the 90s. So he wrote several episodes of Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, Batman Beyond. He wrote a ton of Batman Beyond. He did some Static Shock. He wrote the Deadshot story in Batman Gotham Knight, which I didn't really care much for Gotham Knight, but I liked the Deadshot story.
Yeah, you know, eventually we're going to get to that because there's some stories I liked and they're better than others.
Yeah.
You know, but for those of you listening to this, if you've been watching the DC animated stuff for a while, I guarantee you that pick out a favorite episode of any of these series that Perry has mentioned, and I'm willing to bet that it probably was written by Alan Burnett.
Well, I mean, he wrote the best Batman movie ever made, which is Batman Mask of the Phantasm.
Oh, yeah. Well, there you go.
Yeah. He also wrote 2 episodes of Tailspin, it looks like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, but he did like a whole bunch of other animated stuff beside the DC stuff.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
I mean, this is a guy that, you know, he knows these characters and he knows how to write this animated stuff, which I imagine, and mind you, I am no screenwriting expert. I've been trying for years to write a screenplay and I haven't written it yet because I'm convinced that I have to sacrifice a virgin to crack the code to know how to write a screenplay. So I admire anybody that can write a screenplay, but I imagine that even writing an animated screenplay is significantly different from writing a live action screenplay. But I watch like movies like this that he's written, and I can't help but feel that he didn't look at it as an animated movie, but just as a movie.
No, he's someone who he treats these things as serious movies, and that shows. Right.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. You know, like you could tell that some people they write and they say, okay, well, this is an animated movie, so I feel I got to write it in a certain. You know, I don't get that sense from the pacing, the dialogue. That I don't get the feeling that he said, okay, well, this is just an animated movie I'm doing. No, he treated it like a movie, period.
Yeah. And yeah, he does that very well. And plus you got Sam Liu directing it, and Sam Liu's also directed we talked about him before when we talked about Hulk Versus, because he directed the Thor segment in that. But he's done a ton of these DC animated movies, and he's also, you know, amazing.
Again, because I feel that he doesn't look down on it because it's an animated movie. He just treats it as a movie, period.
Right. Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's stuff in here there's action scenes in here and the shootouts and stuff like that easily rival anything I've seen in a live action, in a live action movie.
Yeah. So, another thing I liked about this is just like but also like, you know, going back to what you said about the theological discussions, you also have that happening with the villains they're going up against too. Like, you know, Zoom's got his whole crew assembled. Vandal Savage has his thing going on, and all of them have clear stated reasons for why they're doing this, and I like that they don't just toss these characters in for no reason.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, excuse me. Anybody that knows me, I tell people all the time when they say, "Well, did you like the characters?" Well, I don't necessarily have to like the characters. Mm-hmm. For me, it's more important to understand that I know why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's what sells me, the motivation. If you got a character that tells me and gives me what's the word I'm looking for? A credible reason for why they're doing why they're doing. Like you'll hear people all the time say, "Well, I need a villain that needs a reason." Yeah, okay, but villains do have different reasons for being a villain. And whether you realize it or not, there are some people just like doing dirty shit just because they like doing dirty shit.
Right.
There's no underlying psychological, well, he was abused as a child. Well, plenty of people are abused as a child and grow up to be law-abiding citizens.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Upstanding citizens. Yeah, exactly. Some people just like doing shit just because they like doing shit.
Remember that movie, that Nicolas Cage movie, 8mm, directed by Joel Schumacher?
Yeah.
The guy, Machine, and at the end, Nicolas Cage confronts him and he pulls off his mask, and it's just like this, chubby middle-aged guy with glasses, and he looks up at him and he's like, "What'd you expect? A monster?" He's like,
yeah.
No. He's like, I'm just a regular guy. Like, Daddy didn't rape me, mommy didn't abuse me. He's like, I'm just a regular guy who likes hurting people.
Right, exactly. And know what? There are some people like that. There are some people just now go to the other end of the spectrum. There are some people that like doing good simply because they like doing good.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
These are the people that will walk down the street and they'll just hand a random stranger $20 and go, "Oh, well, you look like you needed it," and they'll keep on about their business and they'll never think nothing about it. Different people have different motivations. And to me, that is more important in characterization than, well, I have to like the character. Now to me, that's simplistic.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I have to like the character. Well, you don't like every. Matter of fact, I would hate to tell you on the jobs I worked on, how many people I worked with I couldn't stand.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but hey, I didn't live with them. I didn't have to go home with them at the end of the day.
Yeah. And
so
my thing is, you don't have to like a character. You have to find the character interesting.
And you know what? That is all I require from a character. If I'm going to take X amount of time out of my life to watch this movie, it's got to, those characters have to at least be interesting.
Yeah.
Do not bore me, first of all. Because if you're boring me, I don't care how much I like you. Goodbye, click.
Right. I mean, if, there's one thing, there's a lot of people I like, but I wouldn't pay money to see a story about them.
Oh, no.
Because there's nothing interesting about them. They're nice people. I like them just fine, but their stories aren't interesting. I wouldn't pay money to see that story.
Well, of course. Well, why do we find Scarface more interesting than, I don't know, Santa Claus? Just to pull some. No, but seriously, No,
you're right. It's because he's got an interesting story. He's an interesting character. He's not a likable character. He's an interesting character. And that's
he's
the
not
difference.
A likable character. No, he's not a likable character at all. But then again, and that goes back to what I always say, that in a lot of ways our society is hypocritical because we always talk about how much we hate these characters. And okay, well then why is so much of our popular culture around these characters?
Well, here's
this type of character.
Taking it back to this movie, look at Bronze Tiger. All right, like he is the most likable character on the team. Right, he's a good guy. He's taken a vow not to kill any innocents. He's grieving over the loss of his wife. Like you can sympathize with him with that kind of character. He's a good guy, but he's the least interesting member of the Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
You compare him to Deadshot. Deadshot is interesting as hell, but he's an amoral bastard. Harley Quinn is interesting as hell, but she's a friggin' psychopath.
Yeah, I found myself you're watching this movie, you're worried about what's going to happen to Deadshot. You're not worried about what's going to happen to Bronze Tiger.
No. In fact, when you think he's dead, nobody really cares.
Yeah. I mean, sorry to say, because out of all the characters in the movie, like you said, he's like the nominal good guy.
Right.
But yeah, he's not okay. We shouldn't say he's not interesting. He is interesting. And if he was put in another movie with like a bunch of superheroes,
right,
he would probably be a standout.
Oh yeah,
But in this movie with these characters, he's definitely not on the same level of interest as Captain Boomerang or Deadshot or Harley Quinn.
Well, he's the straight man. That's what he is.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, he's totally the straight man. He's there to be a foil for the other characters.
Yeah, to be their conscience for whatever that's worth.
Mm-hmm.
And
also another note on the characters. I love that Harley Quinn is such a horn dog in this movie.
Well, Harley Quinn is the one character that you put in when you want to people, and what she does serve a purpose, and that she gives you something to laugh at, to break up the tension.
But I did love that when she goes in the strip club and she's like oogling all the guys.
Yeah.
And then she's like, and then Killer Frost is like, I had to stop her from frisking all the guys.
Yeah, she's got snow all over her, and she's shivering the next time we see her.
Yeah.
Because, I had to stop her. She was trying to frisk all the guys.
Yeah, I had to cool her off. I had to give her a cold shower. Which I also like how they flipped the script on that. Because if you were doing that story and with the David Ayers Suicide Squad, that would have been like Captain Boomerang doing that to the strippers at a girls' strip club.
Right. There you go.
Right?
Exactly.
But they flip it and they have Harley Quinn doing it at a male strip club.
But since we are talking about Harley Quinn, let me ask you something. Now, out of this movie, Suicide Squad and Birds of Prey, which one is your favorite version of Harley Quinn?
Oh, okay. That's a tough one because, well, first off, I think Margot Robbie is like nothing against Tara Strong. I think she's great. She's done a bunch of Harley Quinn over the years, but I do like Margot Robbie better. Now, as to the question of which version, this is a tough one because I think Harley Quinn was a lot more fun in Suicide Squad, but I think there were also some problems with like the way that David Ayers was filming her in that movie. Whereas in Birds of Prey, like I also like that she's a much more well-rounded character in Birds of Prey. So it depends on what you want out of Harley Quinn. Like, do you want her to be this comic relief type of character, or do you want her to be a more well-rounded character? If it's the former, then Suicide Squad version is better. If it's the latter, then the Birds of Prey version is better. Okay.
See, I only asked because that is the question that I have been asked, though, by people that have asked me the same thing. They say, okay, well, did you like her better in Suicide Squad? Did you like her better in Harley Quinn? Because as a matter of fact, a lot of people actually talk about them as if they're two different characters.
Well, I can see that because in Suicide Squad, she's not like a fully developed character. She's there to be a foil. But
yeah, whereas in Birds of Prey, she's carrying the whole movie.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so it's a different take on the character, and that'll give a different impression. So it depends. Like if you want to do a Harley Quinn story centered on Harley Quinn, you've got to make her a more well-developed character. Otherwise, you don't have a movie. But if you're doing something like Suicide Squad, where she's just there to make jokes and to be kind of like the comic relief, then yeah, that how she was portrayed in Suicide Squad was great.
Okay, fair enough.
How about you? Which one do you prefer?
Well, okay, I prefer. Okay, here's where I show my sexism. While I don't see, while I don't see anything wrong with the way she was portrayed in Suicide Squad, because. And don't jump on me yet. Let me explain.
I'm not going to jump on you.
No, because whenever I said to me, you sexist pig. No, it's not that I'm a sexist pig, but if that's how the character is presented to me, go have a problem with the filmmaker. Don't have a problem with me because I'm accepting the character and enjoying the character for how she's presented to me.
Mm-hmm.
This is because I think it was you or somebody that was saying that, that the way that she was presented in Suicide Squad says more about David Ayers than anything else.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But then as I remind people, I said, but then you got to remember too, that Harley Quinn was directed by a woman, which made a whole world of difference.
Right. Exactly. That's one of the things that was me and Mark Buskin in our Facebook group. What Mark said, because I got to give him credit because he said a lot of this, was that if you compare like the way she's filmed, the way the camera photographs her in Birds of Prey, the way compare it to the way it's done in Suicide Squad, like it's not only different costuming, but it's just like there's a very different gaze that the camera has on her.
Right, because they have that scene where she has the elevator fight.
Right.
And then she comes out of the elevator and she's walking away and all the guys are staring at her butt as she's walking away. You don't see any of that in Harley Quinn.
No. Well, and one thing that jumped out at me, and taking it back to Justice League, was if you compare Justice League, like, because I saw Justice League after I saw Wonder Woman, and I noticed there was a very big difference in how the camera filmed Gal Gadot in Justice League compared to how she was filmed in Wonder Woman. Because like in Wonder Woman, it emphasizes her strength. And like it's the same costume both times, right? And it's the same actress, and she looks gorgeous and sexy in both of them. But in Justice League, it's more about look how sexy she is.
You're right.
In Wonder Woman, it's more about look how badass she is.
Look how strong and powerful she is. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I get exactly what you're saying. And like I said earlier, that's why I believe that it's almost valid when people say that it's like Harley Quinn is two different characters in Suicide Squad as opposed to Harley Quinn, simply because what was directed by a man and what was directed as a woman. And folks, if anybody ever tells you that there's no difference between a movie directed by a man and a woman, you tell them they're full of shit.
No, I mean, I did not realize how big of a difference it was until I watched Wonder Woman and Justice League back to back.
Yeah.
And you watch those two movies back to back, you can tell there's a big difference.
And yeah.
So yeah. But that's nothing against like that has more to do with the directing side, the cinematography side, but as far as the characterization side, like even still, like the Suicide Squad version, she's a fun character.
Oh yeah.
But she's basically just there just to be a comic relief. She's not there to carry the story in the same way that Deadshot is or Rick Flag is.
And oddly enough, you know why this is why I like Harley Quinn. For probably the same reason that I like the original Nick Fury. Mm-hmm. The white guy. Okay. Got nothing against Sam Jackson, mind you. I love his Nick Fury. But I like the original Nick Fury before they brought in all that nonsense with the Infinity Formula and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I liked him because in a world of super soldiers and thunder gods and guys with, iron armor and everything like that, and Atlanteans and humans and all these things. Nick Fury held his own simply by being the toughest son of a bitch on the planet. Yeah. No superpowers. He was just simply tougher than anybody else. Yeah. And even guys like Thor and Captain America gave him his, they gave him mad props. They gave him respect because of who he was, because he was Nick Fury. You just didn't fuck with Nick Fury. And it was just that simple. Harley Quinn, I kind of like in the same way, because she has no superpowers. Mm-hmm. She's just batshit insane. Yeah. But yet she's able to hold her own in this crazy world that she's in with people with superpowers and skills that, that she don't have. All she's got is a baseball bat. Mm-hmm. but she holds her own and she survives. And she improvises and, she manages to stay in the mix.
One of my other favorite Harley Quinn moments in this movie is when Deadshot puts her in charge. And, even Harley looks like, oh, my God, that's a bad idea.
Oh, yes. Oh, no, you don't want to do that.
But it only happens briefly. He's like, you're in charge. She's like, really? Oh. And, a moment later, she's like, okay, let's order pizza.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. You know what? Harley has a moment of clarity there where she's saying and she said, "No, you don't want to do this."
Yeah.
No,
Well,
you
also
don't
when
want.
she comes back to Deadshot at the end, she's like, oh yeah, so Amanda Waller found out that you put me in charge, and she's not too happy about that.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. You can always count on Harley for a good laugh
Mhm.
in these movies. The only thing that I wonder though, and I think I even mentioned this in the Facebook group, that I'm curious. And okay, I'm watching the scene in Harley Quinn where, she's in the hallway and she's in the police station and she's fighting the cops and everything like that. And then she has the other fight scene after that, when she finds the baseball bat and then she's really happy. And I said, well, how did she learn how to fight so good? She was a psychologist.
Yeah, that's something that I had never thought about that until you mentioned that in the group, and I'm like, well, okay, yeah, that's actually a good point because
Yeah,
she was
because
like,
the Joker can't. Yeah, because
No.
the Joker can't fight.
no, the Joker's a crappy fighter. Like he's all about death traps and that kind of thing. But he's when it comes to once Batman gets into a face-to-face confrontation with the Joker, like even before he throws a punch, it's over because he's gonna beat the shit out of the Joker with like one punch.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But
So
I
yeah,
have no idea how. I don't think it's ever been addressed.
yeah, because if we go just by, the fight scene in, the whole movie of Suicide Squad and Harley Quinn, she's one hell of a fighter.
Oh yeah,
You put a baseball bat in that chick's hands, and that's it. She's gonna do some work.
it's like the hammer of Thor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm just which I should add that years ago, when I was a lad and I was studying karate, and there was a guy I knew, and we were talking about weapons, and I was telling, well what's the best weapon? I'm a kid. What's the best weapon? What's the best? And the guy said a baseball bat. I said, what? I'm expecting him to say samurai sword or a bola or a nunchucks or whatever. He said, yeah, baseball bat. I said, what? He said, listen, one day, he said, when you have time, you come around and see me. He said, I'll show you what to do with it. I never went around to see the guy, but you know what? After seeing what Harley Quinn does, I wish I had.
You would have learned some Harley Quinn or some bear juice stuff there.
You know what? I'm thinking that maybe there's some secret martial art involving a baseball bat I've never heard of that some people know, and maybe that's what she learned.
Bat food.
She went to some, like, I don't know, baseball bat Zen master or something like that.
Babe Ruth is still alive. He's teaching the art of bat foo.
Hey, see, now you just gave me an idea for a story. Okay. I like that.
But you know what? One of the things that was jumping out to me is like, well, that's kind of weird watching this movie is when Zoom is fighting off Killer Frost, right? He's got the card, and he's dodging her icicles. And I'm like, don't you want to die while you've got the card? This is your chance. What are you doing? So that part kind of seemed a little strange to me.
Reflex.
Yeah, I guess so. It did kind of just seem strange to me that and also when he's facing Bronze Tiger and Bronze Tiger he sees Bronze Tiger slide the card into his bandages. But instead of doing what he did with Boomerang, where he went and he searched him at super speed, he decides to try and fight it out with Bronze Tiger first. So that was another thing that kind of I thought was a little weird story choice that didn't quite gel with what Zoom was trying to do.
Well, to me, see, that's always been the problem with a guy like the Flash.
Yeah.
Super speed. See, to me, Quicksilver, as far as I know, he could run fast, but like his top speed was only like 50, 60 miles an hour.
No, not that slow. He can run at sonic speed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he can go supersonic, but he can't go like above like Mach 3 or something like that.
Okay, well, that's still too fast. See, but the point I'm trying to make is that when you have a guy like the Flash who can literally move so fast that he can be around the world a dozen times before you take a breath.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then when he just like dukes it out hand to hand, somebody with somebody, then you say, well, why is he doing that?
Yeah.
When he could run around the world, get behind the guy and knock him out before he's even know he's gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is one of the weaknesses with speedster characters. And I that's something that does pop up a lot in some of the TV shows when you're watching. They're like, well, why don't you just do this when you've got that power?
Yeah, yeah. Or even since you can go back in time, well, okay, the guy kicks your ass. Okay, supervillain kicked your ass, but you know his real identity now. Mm-hmm. So you go back in time and you get him before he even, and you put the handcuffs on him. Well, what I do? Well, it's not what you did, it's what you're gonna do. Come on.
Yeah. But yeah, that is one of the weaknesses with the super speed. So you do have to take a little bit of, suspension of disbelief there. But it did just kind of jump out at me when I was watching the movie.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no. And you know what? That's one of the things that you kind of think about when which is why we got stuff like, what was it, back in the 80s where we got like the handbook of the Marvel Universe and stuff like that like tried to explain how these powers worked.
Right.
Yeah, and we got, that whole thing where, okay, well, we're going to get into it and we're going to explain. Then they finally just went all mystical and said, well, there's a speed force and you could do this with it and do that. Because they couldn't explain Flash's power any other way.
Yeah. And something else, we haven't talked a lot about the action, but the action in this movie is really well done. Like, some of these action scenes are just, breathtaking to watch.
Yeah, I mean, right from the, like we said, the mini mission, that's at the first. Because we don't know where they're going in Black Manta's sub. And Black Manta, who is conspicuously absent for the rest of the movie.
Right. I'm guessing, they just used him for transportation or something like that.
Right. That's what I'm trying to figure. Was he actually a member of the squad, or did Vertigo just go to him and hire him and say, okay, well, we need you to take us someplace?
Yeah, I think he was just hired for that job or something as, transportation.
Right, because I can't see Amanda Waller turning him loose.
Which, also comes from the Gail Simone thing, because there was in the lead up to one of the missions, they had they were flying around in one of Black Manta's subs, and they say, well, Black Manta loaned this to us. He rented it out to us.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But that opening scene that's on that train, like you said, they slide down on the ropes to the train and, they take it over and they do. It's a well-crafted scene that, like you said, you would find in any James Bond movie. Yeah. It's just as good as anything you would see in any live action movie. And then you got the gunfight that's the side of, the train, and then Punch and Julia using their powers. And yeah, it was very well done. Very well choreographed. Yeah.
I mean, all the fight scenes in this are like that.
And even though there's a lot of characters in one of them, especially in the scene in the penthouse when Vandal Savage busts in, and there's a lot of characters, but there's no time where I was confused as to what was going on and who was doing what to whom.
Right. And I also like the how Vandal Savage tried to prove himself against them, where he rigs the card to his heart. So, if you remove the card, he dies, and the card's still with him.
Yeah. I said, you know what? That's going to backfire on him.
Well, yeah, because he wasn't counting on Zoom being around.
Yeah. I said, you thought that was a good idea? No, that's going to backfire on you.
But I also do like how they establish right from the beginning that something's off with Zoom. Right? When they're shooting at him as they're leaving in the Winnebago. And Deadshot's like, no, he's moving too slow. There's something's not right here.
Right, exactly. See, that's what I'm saying about when you have those super speed type of characters, you got to do something to slow them down.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, a guy that can move at the speed of light, and that was a good scene where he said, nah, there's something wrong. He said he should have caught us by now.
Yeah.
and even the animation is because you can see in the animation, Zoom is working.
Oh, yeah.
This cat is huffing and puffing.
Well, the scene when he tries to put the tracking device on Savage's ship, right? That's another scene where they really drive home the fact that something's not right with him. Yeah.
Now, see, the first time I saw it, I figured that, the super speed is burning him up. Mm-hmm. That's what I thought. I said, okay, well, because I hadn't seen... The first time I had seen this, I hadn't seen the Flash. Matter of fact, I went back and watched the Flashpoint Paradox because of this movie, because I hadn't seen it. So I didn't make that association with that movie. And then, of course, when he explained it at the end, I said, okay, well, now I got to go see this damn movie to see what. But yeah, that's what I thought it was. I said, well, it must be something wrong with his super speed and it's burning him up.
Yeah, and like I had seen the Flashpoint Paradox, before I saw Hell to Pay, but I'd completely forgotten about the scene where the Thomas Wayne Batman shoots him. So I didn't think anything of it. Like I didn't even realize that these were in the same universe.
Right, yeah.
And then it wasn't until he says what happens that I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that I remember that now.
And it should be pointed out that the Flashpoint Paradox is pretty damn violent too.
Yeah.
Like this movie.
Yeah.
That's got a pretty high body count in that one as well.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. All right, so do we have anything else to talk about with Hell to Pay?
No,
Oh wait, there is one more thing I just thought of now. Sorry to cut you off, but
no, go please cut me off.
The end when he after he saves Bronze Tiger's life or his soul, and then and the card is still there, and he gives it to Amanda Waller, and she's like, "It feels cold," and he's like, "It's a cold world." I love the way that it ended like that.
That ending said so much about Deadshot's character, which. You know what? I love movies where you can see a character is making a stab at redemption, but he doesn't make a big deal out of it.
Right, yeah.
Which he didn't. He did the right thing by giving the card to Bronze Tiger. He went and he said, well, Amanda Waller is never going to know that the card don't be, because the card can only be used one time. Not one time per person, just once.
Yeah, exactly.
So when he gives it to her, she's not going to know. And she's stuck with a card, which means Amanda Waller's going to keep on doing dirty shit, thinking that she's got a way out.
Well, also, that kind of opens the door because you know how resourceful Amanda Waller is. So, like, even Deadshot has to think, well, all right, I'm painting a target on my head.
Yeah, but how she's going to know the card doesn't work until, she dies?
I don't know, but you know what? She's Amanda Waller, and she finds shit out. So I'd be scared to pull a trick like that on Amanda Waller, is all I'm saying.
Because I think that somebody, I don't remember who, but it was somebody who said, yeah, well, how do you know that the card even works? And the answer is, well, I guess you'll find that out when you die. You'll know if it works or not. So, we don't. We know that it worked for Bronze Tiger.
Yeah.
Okay, so we know that the card works. So he gives it to Amanda Waller. I think that you hit on it when you said, "Oh, it feels cold." So, so apparently she must have got some kind of description of the card.
Right.
So
she knows that something's not right.
She was expecting it to feel a certain way.
Yeah, and so like I wouldn't put it past, especially if you're talking like the John Ostrander Amanda Waller. Like, first thing she's going to do as soon as she gets back to her base is she's going to call up someone like John Constantine to come and examine that card.
Well, that would be my guess. That's who I would call. Yeah, John Constantine, and say, well, take a look at this and, tell me what you think.
Yeah, and, and then once she finds out that it's been used up, like, I would not want to be Deadshot is all I'm saying.
Well, you know what? Okay, she's not going to kill Deadshot because he's too useful. She's going to say something, well, you know what? That bomb's going to stay in your neck for the rest of your life. She said, I own your ass from now on. Yeah. Because really the only thing he cares about is his daughter.
Right.
That's the only thing in his life he really cares about. As long as his daughter is taken care of, I think that Deadshot really, he really doesn't give a shit what happens to him.
Yeah.
As long as his daughter is taken care of. But I think that if Amanda Waller, following your logic, and it's good logic, now, I'm not taking that away from you. It's good logic. If she finds it out, it would be too petty of her to kill a resource like Deadshot, where she'd keep him alive and torture the shit out of him.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, because Deadshot doesn't care about dying.
Nah.
Like, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, that was one of his character quirks in the comics, wasn't it? Like, he had a death wish.
Right, yeah. Yeah, he had a death wish. Yeah, that was one of the little psychological quirks.
Yeah.
That John Ostrander gave him. Like, another one where I think because he was going to see a psychologist, and the psychologist said, asked him, well, why is it you've had Batman in your sights, 100 times over these years, but you never shot him? They were trying to figure out the reason why. It was some kind of psychological quirk why in other words, he can't pull the trigger on Batman for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Some psychological reason. He can never pull the trigger on Batman. Because they said, it's kind of funny. You're the man that never misses. Well, why do you keep missing Batman all the time?
Yeah. All right.
So, yeah, that was that and the Death Wish. I do remember the whole thing about the Death Wish.
Yeah. I knew there was something about that. So, yeah, if I was Deadshot, I wouldn't be worried about Waller killing me. I'd be worried about her making my life a living hell.
Yeah, but what else is he going to do?
True.
He's got no other kind of life. The only thing he knows how to do is kill people.
Yeah.
Now, since we talk about characterizations, I wanted to get to this as well. I'm glad you brought me back to it. Did you like the Christian Slater version of Deadshot or Will Smith?
That's a good question. I do love the Will Smith version. I thought I was really surprised by how much I like the Will Smith version because it's so against type for him to play a character like that. But the Christian Slater version I think gets a slight edge because he is much more of an amoral bastard. And I think there's something more interesting in his redemptive arc when you compare it to the Will Smith version.
I think that because people always ask me this, what did you think about Will Smith? I think I like the Deadshot character in Suicide Squad mainly because it was Will Smith playing against type.
Yeah.
Because usually Will Smith is always into the heroic characters and stuff like that.
Right. I mean, he turned down Django Unchained because of his image.
Right, exactly. He said, right. He didn't want to play that type of character. So for him to play that type of character, I thought was a bold move for him. Mm-hmm. And I think that as he gets older, he may want to explore going further in that direction.
Yeah, and I hope he does because I thought he did a good job in Suicide Squad playing against type like that.
Yeah. And I mean, he's getting older. Mm-hmm. Let's be honest. He's getting older. And me personally, this is just my opinion, folks. I think it's time for him to start exploring other types of characters to play.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And that character was a step in the right direction. Christian Slater, I wouldn't mind if they made a Deadshot movie and brought him back to do the voice.
No, definitely not. I thought he did a great job. I would love to see him do the character again. And apparently, from what I've heard, he loved doing the character as well. So it's a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, because like I said, he does interesting things with his voice where he's saying one thing, but he's obviously meaning another.
Yeah. Also, and I'm not sure if this is, but you remember when he was he was looking for his daughter in that crack house or whatever, and one of the guys attacks him, and it sounded like the guy's voice sounded like Christian Slater's Jack Nicholson impersonation. Did you catch that?
I did not catch that, but you know what? I'm going to go back and watch it again just to see. I didn't get. That's good though.
Yeah, and so I wonder if Christian Slater did that voice for that other guy and just did his Jack Nicholson impersonation.
Yeah, because remember when he first started out, that's who he was doing.
Oh yeah. I remember
Christian Slater.
Do you remember The Critic, the John Lovitz cartoon?
Oh yeah,
definitely. I remember there was like a Few More Good Men starring Jack Nicholson and Christian Slater, and he's like, I want the truth. He's like, you can't handle it. He's like, all right, you want the truth? Fine. You look like me. You sound like me. You don't have a freaking original bone in your body. And then Christian Slater's like, that's a freaking lie.
Oh, because I mean, when he first started out, he had the eyebrows down.
Yeah.
He had the body language down and everything. And I said, oh my God. They have to get him and Jack Nicholson in a movie together where they can play father and son.
Yeah, there was he was in there's an independent film. It was called Who Is Cletus Tout? I'm not sure if you ever saw that or heard of that.
No.
All right, so it was with Christian Slater, Portia de Rossi, and Tim Allen and Richard Dreyfuss. And Tim Allen plays a hitman who's a movie buff, and he's got Christian Slater tied to a chair, and he's asking Christian Slater, tell him the story and everything, and Christian Slater's telling him, the events of the movie, and Tim Allen is imagining, how he turned it into a movie, And he's saying, like, and we got to figure out who we cast to play you. He's like, anyone ever tell you look like a young Jack Nicholson?
What's the name of this movie?
This is it's called Who is Cletus Tout?
Who is Cletus Tout? Okay, I gotta look this up.
It's not that great, but it's funny just for the Tim Allen bits.
Well, you know what? I like Christian Slater. I've always liked Christian Slater, even in his Jack Nicholson phase. And once he grew out, and know what? Once he grew out of that phase, and I think he was in that phase because that's what everybody was telling him.
Yeah.
So I guess he figured, well, if everybody's telling me I look and sound like Jack Nicholson, I might as well look and act like him. Which but once he grew out of that and found his own vibe and his own voice and everything like that, he turned into one hell of an actor.
Oh yeah, definitely. All right, so anything else to talk about in this?
Not that I can think of, other than I highly recommend it. It is currently, you can find it on Amazon Prime. Mm-hmm. What is this, like $3 to rent? Although if you're subscribed to DC Universe, I would imagine that you could probably find it on there.
Oh yeah, I imagine. In fact, first time I saw this, I'm pretty sure I saw it on Hulu, but it's not on there anymore. I had to rent it off iTunes. Oh,
okay. Yeah, I rented it off of Amazon Prime, even though I haven't. I'm trying to figure out, what? Since they're doing all of these different things and all these different streaming services and stuff like that, I have not yet subscribed to DC Universe, and I'm trying to figure out, do I want to subscribe to that, or do I want to wait and see? Because I keep hearing the rumors that it's going to merge with HBO Max.
Right.
And so, I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I'd say if there's one thing you could do is you could wait until they get a bunch more shows, and then when you've got like a free week, you subscribe to the free trial and just like watch everything you want to watch, and then decide later if you want to keep doing it. And then when HBO Max comes along, if they've got the same stuff, you can just cancel it.
Well, you know what? I wouldn't mind, because I think it's only something like $7 a month anyway. I think so. So I mean, it's not like it's going to break the bank.
I mean, I think it'd be worth it just to have access to all the animated stuff.
Yeah, and you know what? I deeply want to finish watching, because I watched half of the season 1 of Doom Patrol. For some reason, I never finished watching it. So I want to finish watching that before the second season starts. But from what I'm understanding, the second season of Doom Patrol is going to be on HBO Max. But I haven't heard that the first season is going to be on there.
Did you get to? I don't think you got to this yet, because I think it's probably in the later half. But did you get to Admiral Whiskers yet?
No.
Oh, you're in for a treat.
See what I mean? So like I said, I think it's only something like $7. It's $7 at this point. It's not going to kill me.
Yeah,
so maybe I just go ahead, and if it does decide that they merge later, I'll just go beat up somebody and get my money back. That's all.
I'm thinking about, because the reason I haven't jumped into it yet is because it's not available in Japan, so I got to use my proxy service to use it. But they haven't added support for DC Universe again, so I got to email them and ask them. Because they say, email us if you want access to something, and we'll pass it on to engineers, see if we can make it happen. So I think I'm going to send them an email and, see what they say.
I got you.
All right, so not me. My pick is next up, and I thought we'd go back Marvel, and especially because I'm reading the comics now, I thought we'd go look at the Ben Affleck Daredevil film, the director's cut. That is, but
one of your favorites.
Well, not one of my favorites, but something I think it's underrated. Like it's not as bad as people think it is.
Listen, I remember how you was going back and forth when the director's cut came out, because you were championing that. You were the champion of that movie, the director's cut.
Yeah.
Because you told anybody would listen. No, you got to see the director's cut. You got to see the director's cut. And I was saying, it can't be that good. And you said, did you see it? Did you see it? I said, no. Whoa, calm down, dude.
Yes.
I'll go see it. Okay, yeah, listen, this is the director's cut.
Yeah, the director's cut.
Oh, all right.
So
okay.
because I kept asking you, and now I get the chance to make you watch it.
Yes, you do. You get to, and I know you're loving it. But
listen,
listen, if you got the opportunity, why not take it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Looking forward to it.
Okay. All right. So join us next week. We're going to talk about the director's cut of Daredevil. Until then, head over to Superhero Cinephiles on Facebook. Join the group. Join in the discussion. Also, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Super Cinema Pod. Follow us on both of those. And head on over to the website. Click on any of the links there. Do some shopping on Amazon. And we get a little bit of kickback.
Absolutely.
All right.
We love kickback.
Yes, we do. We love kickbacks. All right. That does it for us. Thanks so much for listening, and we will talk to you next time.
Good night, and God bless. Wash your hands, stay home, stay safe.
Yep. Thanks for listening to the Superhero Cinephiles podcast. If you have any questions or comments about this or any other episode, or if you have a superhero movie or TV show you'd like us to cover in a future episode, you can email us at superherocinephiles@gmail.com, or you can also visit us on the web at superherocinephiles.com. If you like what you hear, leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. Each review helps us reach more potential listeners. You can also support the show by renting or purchasing the movies discussed, or by picking up our books, all of which can be accessed through the website, as well as find links to our social media presences. The theme music for this show is a shortened version of Superhero Showdown, a royalty-free piece of music courtesy of BesleonStudios.com.